WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And what you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We about to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about, here sometimes we'll get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit.
Welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. Well, like always, folks, we got a lot of different stories we're going to talk about on the Grown Men Podcast. A lot of interesting topics that came up this week. A lot of them are heartfelt and sad, but, you know, that's a part of life. We got to talk about these things. And on the Grown Men Podcast, we talk about a variety of topics. And, of course, this week, the news was jumping, a lot of things going on. But I'm going to start off once again with Felon 47. Yes, once again, Felon 47, the felon of the United States of America, is at it once again. And of course, this week, he's still touting about how he has ended the war in Iran and he's going to bomb them to hell and all these other tropes that he uses to try to cover the fact that he's a negligent failure. Because that's exactly what he is. Because all the things that he promised his MAGA people, right? At the beginning, right, when he first was re-elected again as president, was to not get in forever wars. And yet still, he started this war up with Iran and the Straits of Hormuz, all about being able to bring oil through. All of this for nothing. And we're not going to get into the specifics because we already knew that a deal was in place under the Obama administration, a man who he is jealous of. We know about all that. But all the grifting that's going on with Felon 47 and his family is ridiculous. And there are a lot of people who still sit on the sideline and say, well, how has this affected my everyday life? Those are people who have checked out and they simply don't care. And that can be understood. So continue to sit on the sideline. But as I've said previously here on the Grown Man Podcast, when you do that, that tells me everything I need to know about you and where your mindset is. Because, see, you only care about small things that happen day to day, like the price of beer or liquor or tobacco products and things of that nature. See, I have conversations with these people and I know exactly where their head is and where their mindset is. They're in a totally different stratosphere than the rest of us who are talking about food on the table and clothing on their children's back. And you see what Felon 47 has done since he has become president again. He has took $2 billion he's made off the presidency. And yet you get people on the side like the Bill Maher's and the Stephen A. Smiths who once again run their mouth and saying how Obama got rich off the presidency, when this felon got rich off everybody's backs. And yet nothing will be said because, as I said before, Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher are a bunch of cowards. So it didn't shock me that he was the one presenting him with this so-called prestigious award. I don't even know what the name is. That goes to show you how much I care about it and how much out of touch I am with this garbage, because that's what it is to me and most of the people in this country. We could give a damn less about an award when people are struggling to fill up their gas tanks to go to work, or people don't have money to send their children to camp where they can learn something, right? All of these things right now that are going on, you can put at the door of Felon 47. And once again, he ran out of appeals in the Jean E. Carroll case, and he has to pay her that $5 million. This is how this felon has built his entire career, off stall tactics. When he owed other people, like he did with Deutsche Bank, when he owed them money, he sues them. You got to give Felon 47 his credit for coming up with these conniving schemes, because he's one of the best at all time. Hell, if he was in professional wrestling, he'd be the greatest heel of all time, and I love him. But this is real life. We're talking about people who generally need help, and he's enriching himself, his family, and his billionaire friends and donors. That's who he's taking care of. As you see this administration continue to roll back things that are helping us to live healthy lives. He's knocking anything that's scientific because he's an idiot and a moron. And he has the TV show judge, Janine Pirro, going around saying they're going to prosecute people for sticking their hands in some damn water. Are you kidding me? And then she wouldn't answer the question about January 6th, saying, oh, we're still talking about that. No, these people put crap on the walls in the Capitol. And he pardoned all those people. These are the type of people that you see in this administration. And anybody who voted for this idiot and this moron deserves to go to hell. There's a special place for them. Because that's where that felon is going, straight to hell. He's going to hell for the things that he did, and he knows it. And he wants to go out with a bang by making everyone suffer. Because that's what type of person he is. And anyone that surrounds him, they're all poison. And anyone who sucks up to him are cowards. Because they're all about a dollar bill, which is meaningless in the real world, right? We know what money is about. We know we need money to take care of our families and things of that nature, right? But how much money do we really need? How much money do we really require in order for us to live a good life? I can tell you right now, and a lot of people say, well, he'll say that because he's not in that position or he never will get it. Don't care about it. At a certain point in my life, other things became more important than money. Yes, there is. And yes, you need money to survive. That's just the way it is. That's facts. But how much do you need? How many people's backs do you need to step on to get it? And we know what Felon 47 is all about. And Jack Smith, the special prosecutor who prosecuted him, laid it all on the line. Never be afraid of tyrants and never back down. And that's what he said, and that's what I stand on, and that's what I believe in. I'm not scared of Felon 47 and anyone else. As I said before, they can come knock on my door and see me, man to man, one-on-one. And I'll tell them then what I think of them just the way I'm telling them on the Grown Men podcast. Because that's exactly what I've been doing. I've always given up the real on how I really feel. And nobody's ever going to shut that down. I'll be pitching this until they put me in that box and drop me 6 feet deep. Because I'm a man that says what I believe, and it comes from my heart and my soul. And everything in me, I believe that Felon 47 is the biggest criminal of all time. And he's running the federal government. As he keeps trying to gerrymander, he keeps trying to come up with Save the Vote acts and everything under the sun. Because he knows what's going to happen this election cycle. He knows it. And he's running scared of it because for the simple fact, that's what type of person he is. Felon 47 is the type of person who's a narcissist. And he believes that he's right all the time and you're wrong. And if you don't believe in the same things he believes in, he calls you low IQ and everything under the sun. We know that he's racist because he said this about people who are African American. He said this to people who are Asian American. He said this people to Latino Americans, and on down the list. This is what he thinks of us. So we have to tell him what we think of him. And don't hold nothing back. That's for dignitaries to do. They take the high road. I'm going to get down in the dirt with this felon and tell him what I think of him. And that's what I do here on the Grown Man Podcast. I tell him exactly what I think of him. If I met him, I would tell him the same thing. Because that's exactly what I do. And people have to understand that you have to stand up for your rights. It's your First Amendment right to speak. We want to peel back and take everything. As once again, we sat on the sideline and we watched it go by. As the Supreme Court in a narrow ruling. And everybody's applauding and clapping and everything that's going on saying, yes, 5-4. Think about it. Same thing happened with Roe versus Wade, right? They just take an inch and then an inch and an inch and an inch. And finally they get that big boom and they take citizens' birthright all away. It can be done. And someone told me that the other day where they was like, yeah, they'll have to drag me out of here. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what they'll do, you idiot. They will drag you out of here because you're next. We're all next. People who don't think like them and act like them are all next, except for the spooks that line up at the door. Of course, we know Stephen A. Smith will kindly bow down. As D.L. Hughley said on his podcast recently that, Stephen A. Smith admires whiteness, and he does. He admires it and he embraces it. That's why people like Megyn Kelly is his friend. After she went on a tirade about Haitians getting out of this country, when everybody that's in the United States of America right now is an immigrant. Because you weren't on this land, you're in European nations, you're in African nations, because that's what existed. People didn't live on this side of the earth because you couldn't. Back then, the climate was so difficult, we had less clothing as people. So how in the hell will we live in this land and survive winters? We couldn't. It's all fiction. It's all made up. We had to come from warmer climates. That's the only way we could survive. So for people like Megyn Kelly and Stephen A. Smith and the rest of their ilk, they'll continue to say stupid things. They'll continue to be stupid people because that's what they do. And they want you to engage in that with them, right? That's why they put these posts out, because they want the attention. They want the feedback. I give them none of that. When it's an article about either one of these idiots, I look at the article, skim through what they said, and then I quote from what they said and take it and run it. Because that's what I do. I'm not going to give them my time. I'm not going to give them all that. I'm just going to talk down on them on the Grown Men Podcast because that's what I do. I talk down on idiots and morons, and I will continue to do so. So for Felon 47 to do what he's doing right now, people got to understand, wake up, get off the sideline. We know what the Supreme Court is. We seen Uncle Ruck walking through there and they're asking him, where is he going? He said, oh, I'm just hanging around. So that's what an old washed up Supreme Court justice does, right? Hang around. Him and his fat wife. Him and his fat white wife. That's what they do, hang around. Because they're hanging around to try to put the burden on black people. We know that Clarence Thomas hates himself. He hates his skin color. Everybody knows his history, right? We all know this by now. So we don't expect anything from him except for him to die soon. That's all we can hope for. And get him out of the way so we can get this thing back to it where it used to be when people like Thurgood Marshall sat on the Supreme Court, or Kenji Jackson right now. And we need more black Americans to get on the Supreme Court. We need more Latino Americans to get on the Supreme Court. We need more Asian Americans, and so on and so on and so on. So then we have a level playing field where it's all level. But until we get there, we're going to continue to get people like Felon 47. And he won't be the last one, as J.D. Vance has his eye on that office. And Marco Rubio has his eye on that office, which once again, birthright citizenship should apply to him. His parents weren't born in America, but it doesn't. Same way with Melania, Felon 47 wife. She's more American than me. Bull. My people bled here. They lived and they died here. Her people lived and died somewhere else. So why in the hell is she allowed to be a citizen and people from Haiti are not? We know that it's racist. People from Haiti, India, all these other countries are not allowed. Not to mention the slaughter that's going on in Gaza and what's going on with Israel doing anything under the sun and no one saying anything about it. This is all under the watch of Felon 47. But one day, he'll be gone. And then the people that are after have to say, never again. They have to make laws that say, never again let someone like him be in the office. That's the only way that we'll ever be rid of these problems forever. Because as long as there are people like him in the world, and there are many of them, trust me when I tell you, I see them all the time. They have that look on their face like they hate you and they can't stand you and they don't want to be around you. They don't want you in their communities and they don't want you in their neighborhoods. I see this all the time. So it's nothing new. But for us, we need to fight back as a people if we want to get beyond this. Felon 47 is right now, but he's not the future. The future lies in the young people that are coming up right now. And a lot of these progressives took on these high-paid Democrats and they took them down in the primaries. And people were saying the Democrats are running scared and the Democrats going to fight back and they're going to say this against the other people in their party. Look, get to the sideline and get over it. This is the new wave of what the Democratic Party is going to be. People that are going to be outspoken, not sit down and write hard written letters about what they want to do. No, they want people who's going to get on the floor and talk to these people and tell them what they think of them. Because that's exactly what they do on the Republican side. That's how they rile up their base with their racist views and thoughts. These are the things that they do. This is what the Republican Party has become. And the Democratic Party needs to step their game up, not only with the rhetoric, but with the action behind it, as Mondami is doing in New York. Mondami is doing the things that he said he was going to do. Freezing rent, local grocery stores, all of those things he's doing in New York City. That's what needs to be done across this country. And that's what these progressives are going to do. Felon 47 is a fad. He's going to fade away into obscurity, one way or the other, whether it be in this lifetime or he fades out of this life completely. But we're going to continue to talk about Felon 47 here on the Grown Man Podcast because for the simple fact, it's an important issue we all should be addressing. Another topic I want to talk about is something that I saw a story actually I'm looking at right now. And it was something that happened, I believe, down in Georgia. And that's a Dollar General manager, a mom of 3, and a grandmother of 2, fatally shot over $1.58 purchase. The man who allegedly shot the Georgia store manager was later killed in an altercation with police officers. Alexis Hill was fatally shot by a customer on June 23rd during an alleged altercation over a $1.58 purchase at a Dollar General store in Georgia. The suspect, Jerome Willis, was killed hours later in a police confrontation that left another officer and a canine injured. Hill, remembered as a hard-working and loving mother, is survived by 3 children and 2 grandchildren. A Dollar General store manager and mom of 3, killed over some buns. Alexis Hill was ringing up a customer for a purchase of hamburger buns for a total of $1.58 at a Dollar General location on Victory Drive in Columbus, Georgia on Tuesday morning, June 23rd, when he shot and killed her. The customer, identified by authorities as 33-year-old Jerome Willis, handed a handed Hill, 44, two crumpled dollar bills to pay for the buns, and she straightened out the cash. He stepped aside and pulled out a gun and shot her. Hill was shot just at 10 a.m. local time and pronounced dead shortly around 10:45. Willis fled the scene but was later shot and killed during a confrontation with police at 11:40 a.m. that left one officer and a police dog wounded. This is what's going on right now in this country. $1.58 cost this woman her life. How stupid are we as human beings? And we can talk down on the guy who did it, but we're talking about the ones that are still alive because they put him down as well they should. And there's a time, people always say, yeah, police go a little bit too far in the things that they do. In this case, it's absolutely justified. You killed that lady for $1.58. What they should have did was kept them alive a little longer. Make them suffer a little longer. Like this woman's family is going to suffer and her grandchildren are going to suffer because they lost her for $1.58. Give me a damn break. As men, what are we? What are we as men when we go out and commit these kind of acts? We're selfish cowards. We're mentally unstable and we're selfish cowards. I have no sympathy for these goons. I've said it several times. If police kill hardworking citizens, I got a problem with that. But when they kill goons, I got no problem with that. Because that's one less goon we got to worry about on the street causing havoc that may harm someone else. So his family should have all the shame. They should carry that shame. Because if they knew he was involved in this kind of stuff, now that's if they knew. If they didn't, it's not their fault. But if they knew he was that type of person and they didn't report him to authorities, damn shame on them. Because stuff like this should never have to happen to anyone. Nobody should lose their life at all. Yet over $1.58. It's ridiculous and it's asinine on itself. It's something that should never happen at all. And for the police that did what they did their job. Hopefully the police and the dog recovers. But in this case, they did absolutely what they were supposed to do. Because if he did this, and there's all points saying that he did, there's no other person that they're looking for. This is the person. Then he got what he deserved. And he had to pay the price. That's all I'm going to say about it. Another topic I want to talk about right here in the city of Chicago. Juvenile sentenced in far south side shooting death of a Chicago postal worker. Now, this happened back in 2024. I believe I might have spoke here on the Grown Man podcast about it because I remember this story. And, they were looking for the guy and they found out that he was only like 15 years old or something. So this happened back in 2024. And a Cook County judge sentenced the minor to 5 years inside the Department of Juvenile Justice. The sentencing comes weeks after a minor pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in the killing of 48-year-old Octavia Redmond, a 5-year mail carrier for USPS on June 3rd. It was before 11:40 a.m. July 19, 2024, when authorities responded to the 121st block of South Harvard in the city's West Pullman neighborhood on a report that someone had been shot. Redmond was later pronounced dead at Christ Hospital. The 15-year-old boy later identified as the shooter in Redmond's death following a months-long investigation. Authorities arrested the juvenile in October 2024 after locating him in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He was later extradited to Chicago. Prosecutors said the juvenile dressed in all black and tracked Redmond's route the day of the shooting before he got out of a stolen white Dodge Durango and shot her multiple times. Authorities linked the gun back to a separate battery case, prosecutors added. Nearby surveillance video captured the shooting. Now, this is something that's strange to me because we know that this was a hit from the way it was described. However, we're not getting all of the information. There's something else behind this story. And I believe personally, this is my opinion, but I believe that this woman was known by this individual. And I hope to God that she wasn't his mother. I really hope that. And they haven't said that. And that's never been reported. I hope that she's not his mother, aunt, or someone that's related to him. I mean, it's bad either way. But when you do that, that sets the standard. As I've said many times, whether I was speaking here on the Grown Man podcast or I was talking to my guys in general, I said, look, if people will do their own family members, what in the hell remorse will they have for you and I? They won't have any. They will drop us at any time for any reason. Look at them the wrong way, they want to drop you because they got that heat on them. They got that bag with that chopper in it, that strap in it. They got it. And they ready to put that work in, and they're proud of their work. So for this situation right here, a postal worker just trying to do her job and she lost her life. And then, here we go. We got 5 years slapped on them. What are we saying? Because there has to be something deeper in order for him to just get 5 years. Because people try to tend to say, look, he's 15 years old, give him a break. You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute. When I was 15 years old, I was fully capable of knowing right from wrong. So clearly he knows right from wrong. So what's the issue with the 5 years? Family members are saying, hey, that ain't enough. Some people are saying, well, he's got to learn. I'm on the side that say when you 15 years old, you know what you doing. If you 15 years old and you steal a car, okay. If you 15 years old and you steal something out of a store, I say, okay. He gets a second chance. If you assault somebody even, you get a second chance. But when you take somebody's life, you can't give that life back. You can't work that off. You can't. So for 5 years, I don't know if I'm on that one. 25 years with 20 served, I might let him slide with that. But he got to learn something while he in there. And he's got to give back to society. And to me, as I said before previously on the Grown Men podcast, I believe when you murder somebody, you owe a debt to that family that you should be paying off the rest of their life. Meaning those family members should be paid as long as you live. Whatever you make, a part of that, a percentage of that goes to that family because you took their family member away and no amount of money is going to bring them back, right? But it'll help with bills and different things that family is going to go through because of the shortfall of that income being eliminated from their family. There are levels to this, and that's part of it right there. So for this situation, it's sad. It's one of these situations that we continue to see happening. And unfortunately, they will continue to happen unless people get the help that they need and people are raising their kids to be better than what they are. All of these things, right, affect what's going on right now. And I'm sorry that this woman lost her life. Those kind of things, I really hate talking about them. And sometimes I ignore these stories because they are heart-wrenching and they sometimes put me into depression because I hate to see people get harmed for no reason. When you out there doing crime and you get shot full of holes, I got no sympathy for you because you made a choice. But people who are out trying to do an honest day's work for them to get gunned down, no, man, it does something to me. But we have to talk about these things here on the Grown Man podcast because I want to share my thoughts and what I have to say with a lot of other people. And maybe they feel the same way as I do because these situations shouldn't be happening. Another topic I want to talk about ties right into this as this violence just continues and it does not stop. An estranged husband charged with murder in the deadly shooting of mother of 5 in Chicago. A man has been charged with murder after a mother of 5 was found shot to death in a South Side alley. The shooting happened at 4:30 a.m. Sunday, January 18th in the 6400 block of South Drexel Avenue in the city of Chicago's Woodlawn neighborhood. Know the area real well. Kiera Jenkins, 36, was shot multiple times and pronounced dead at the scene, according to police. Court documents show that 45-year-old Eddie Jenkins, identified as Kiera's estranged husband, whom she shared those 5 children with, left his home and drove toward Kiana's home. Surveillance video showed him parking his car, a white Buick Enclave, about a block away and then walking back to her home. Neighbors said they heard Eddie and Kiera arguing before gunshots rang out a short time later. Security cameras captured Eddie running through an alley toward his parked car, and his vehicle was also captured driving on video away from the area, according to the prosecutors. Authorities said once Eddie arrived home, he woke up his children and they all went to church. Eddie and Kiera were known to attend church together with their children and Kiera's friends, and they grew suspicious when they noticed Kiera was not at church with Eddie and their children. Friends later went to Kiera's home and found her on the ground in the backyard, having been shot multiple times throughout the body. On Thursday, January 29th, Chicago police officers stopped Eddie, who was driving the same Buick Enclave he drove on the morning of the shooting. Eddie initially pulled over, but then drove off when officers approached him. However, officers tracked him down later that day and arrested him. Eddie has been charged with first-degree murder. On Wednesday, July 1st, Eddie was ordered detained. He has another court appearance scheduled for Wednesday, July 22nd. Prosecutors also said Eddie had been arrested twice in the past for domestic battery. And 2 months before the shooting, Kiera told her friends she was going to divorce Eddie and had gathered preliminary paperwork she planned to file. There it is in a nutshell right there, according to this story of WGN. Credible source with this. And this is the type of stuff that happens, right? All the time we see it. And I've said this before. When families gather up with that religion, and unfortunately, the man usually takes that very seriously, meaning that his wife and woman should bow down to him and be beholden to him. That's exactly what some of us men think, because I hear these guys get up on that soapbox all the time and preach about how loyal they want their women to be, when we're not loyal. As men, we're not loyal. We're not loyal to our damn families, and we're not loyal to our wives or our children, because we do each and everything under the sun. Then we want to come home, jump on a woman, beat on a woman, and tell her that she should be subservient to us. Why? When you're not doing anything, when you're not the financial breadwinner, when you're just the one that's tagging along, you don't deserve any credit. You're not being a man. This wasn't a man. You don't kill your children's mother under any circumstances. You just don't do it. It's wrong. Women should be treated with the utmost respect, just like you would treat anyone else with the utmost respect. When you're talking to your guys, you don't get out of line, because you know what's going to happen 9 times out of 10 if you get out of line with your guys. They're going to put it on you. And then you're going to walk home with your tail between your legs and then go jump on your woman because that's somebody you feel you got the upper hand on. And that's why I say all these religions, I don't get down with religion. I believe in God, certainly, 100%. Don't believe in religion, because religion has been watered down by man to think that women should be subservient to them. For what? If you are not some kind of role model that anyone should look up to, why should anyone be subservient to you? So for this guy to do what he did, damn shame on him. Damn shame on him. And there's a place for him. And when he meets his maker, like I said, once again, that's up to God. It's not up to me. I'm just here to give my opinion on what I see and how I feel. And in a situation like this, there's no excuse ever to do what he did. It simply should never happen. It's a sad state of affairs, and it should be a stain on his name forever and his children, hopefully, because they're the ones who are going to grow up with this trauma, knowing that their father murdered their mother. They're the ones who I feel for because they have to live with that. And the parents of this young woman, they have to live with that. That's who I feel bad for. I don't feel anything for him. Nothing but contempt. And drop his ass in the Grand Canyon. I would care less about it. That's how I feel about that situation. Another topic I want to talk about, Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling announced he plans to retire. So Snelling is going to be out, and he will retire July 15th coming up. And it's one of those situations where Mayor Brandon Johnson, chose this man to serve on him, and he got the numbers down, to where it was respectable. However, those numbers are starting to rise back up. And of course, they're going to point their finger at the police department and at the mayor's office, as well they should, because this is where the problem lies. However, as I said before, when you got outside interests also working against the city of Chicago, which we know that's what's going on, there's no question about it, it's political. We know that Felon 47 and his cronies that work in the FBI, the Justice Department, and all over this federal government has their hands all over Chicago because Chicago is one of the sanctuary cities. And especially when you have a black man who's the mayor, because nobody thinks he's qualified. And Daley had this job for years and years, and he was never qualified because he didn't do jack for this city. And anybody who was around that said he did, they're lying. And they're lying. And I'm saying it out of my mouth. So we know what it's about with Mayor Brandon Johnson and any other minority, candidate that runs for mayor. Karen Barris is taking it out in California. So it's one of those situations where, you either get with it or bow down from it. We know what Eric Adams did in New York. He bowed down, and that's why people got him out of there, because they knew what he was about. He was about himself. And, you get these guys all the time. Like I say, they get up there and they make that big talk and they make that big speech. But when it all comes down to it, they take the money because it's tempting to them. Like somebody once said, open money will tip the honest man. And if people keep offering you some, especially when you got these big money machines and this APAC money in politics, they keep offering it to you. It's hard for you to turn it down. And those are the people who have no moral compass, and money is more important than anything else that they've ever done in their lives, including their children. So they will take the money. They'll fall after what Felon 47 says because he does the exact same thing. He's always put his children first, right? He's divorced their mothers and kicked them off to the side, and yet they're still there kissing his ass. Why? Because Eric Trump and Don Jr. and Ivanka and the rest of them are waiting for him to die because that's what they want to do. That's how they do it. They wait on him to die so they can get everything that he had left over. So, but back to this story right here, Larry Snelling, returned from the police force, and Snelling's around my age. So he knows, he comes from Inglewood. He knows our area and he knows this city. And there's other things that are going on right now where sometimes you have to have a different voice to come in. And maybe their strategy will be a little bit different. It happens. It happens all the time, right? It's nothing new where people come in and come out of jobs. So, for me to grade Snelling on his work, I would have to say, he did the best he could in the situation. So if you want to say C plus, B minus, somewhere in that range, nobody's going to be excellent at it. I think he did a better job than when David Brown was in here, when he came from San Antonio and came here and got fat from eating food. I think he did a better job than he did. Now it's probably time for a fresher voice and a fresher perspective. And as I said, these other agencies that are working along with the Chicago Police Department that help is welcome as well. Because crime preventers are important too. They don't get the credit that they deserve, but they're out here pounding the pavement trying to stop these situations before they start. Because that's where you want to get it. You want to nip it in the bud. You want to get to the root of an issue before it becomes an issue. And that's the things that need to be worked on. But for Larry Snelling, he's had a good career in law enforcement. He deserves, to, retire and move on to the private sector. He's going to do something there, is what I've heard, that he has a lot of things that he wants to do there. Of course, Mayor Johnson is hearing from the fallout and the shakeup. And of course, the alders, especially one Raymond Lopez, we know he's going to voice his opinion on it because we know how he feels. He wants to be mayor himself, but he know he'd never get the votes, especially when get one from me. Another topic I want to talk about, Michigan parents charged with the murder of their 7-year-old son who weighed 255 pounds. Are you kidding me? So apparently these people, and I'm looking at them right now, and you can tell why, that they were let their son get to 250 pounds. The parents of a 7-year-old Michigan boy who weighed 255 pounds when he died have been charged with murder, torture, and child abuse, prosecutors said. Clearly, the parents were feeding the child improperly, to say the least, said the prosecutor David Layton. He wasn't getting the nutrition he needed. You think? Casper O'Brien died last November after first responders were called to the family's home in Flint, Michigan, because he stopped breathing. Prosecutors said his parents, Damian O'Brien, 40, and Jessica O'Brien, 41, have each been charged with second-degree murder, torture, and 3 counts of second-degree child abuse. The couple were arraigned last week after being held on no bond in jail in Genesee County. That's about an hour drive from northwest Detroit. A probable cause hearing is set for Thursday. The child, who was 4 feet 2 inches height, was medically classified as obese, according to the Genesee County Medical Examiner's report. His cause of death was listed as dilated cardiomyopathy, with his weight being a contributing condition. Dilated cardiomyopathy happens when the heart becomes enlarged and weakened and can't efficiently pump blood, which can affect other body systems, including the lungs. According to criminal complaints, the parents failed to take Casper for treatment, even though the family had health care. This is the most ridiculous story that you can have, right? There's no way in hell, no way on God's earth do you allow a 7-year-old child to be 255 pounds, not 155 pounds, 255 pounds. That's around the range I am right now. Well, a little bit less than that, but in my 240s. But the point, what I'm saying is that at 7 years old, 255 pounds, these parents ought to be fed just like in the fairy tale where the kid couldn't get enough and he kept feeding them and feeding them and feeding them. That's what should happen to them when they get locked up. That's what their hell should be. Keep feeding them and feeding them and feeding them until they explode. Because that's basically what they did to this 7-year-old child. They fed this child until his heart stopped for no reason. And then they doubled down on it, but not getting him the health care that he needed. And they had health care. So this is ridiculous and this is asinine, and anything that they get, they deserve. Because they never, ever should have let this happen. It's ridiculous. It's something that should never happen to any child for no reason. And yet it did. These are the type of things that we see happening all the time, though. That's not the first and the last. That's why they make these 700-pound shows and all of this other stuff. Of course, it makes money because people want to glare at these people. But no, people generally need help. And it's an unfortunate situation that these parents did what they did. And now they're being criminally charged as well they should. As I said, they should go to prison and be fed until they explode because that's what they did to their 7-year-old child. And that, in my eyes, is justice. Another topic I want to talk about that came up this week, and I talked about it with Steele and we discussed it. And I also talked about it with Mark as well, and that was the running back, namesake of me, Chris Johnson, where he, has been diagnosed with ALS. And for those who don't know what ALS is, Lou Gehrig's disease, which basically it starts to get to your mind and it affects your body. Steve Mungo McMichael passed from it, unfortunately, as well. It takes your mind and your body, and you get very weak. My uncle passed away and had ALS. He passed away in 1993 from this. So I know about it. It's in my family history. And so, what he was saying when he did the interview with Strahan was that he couldn't even pick up his 7-year-old daughter anymore. You know, last year he was picking her up. This year he cannot do that. That's how fast this strikes. And there is no cure for it. And also this week, I have to talk about with Danny Glover. Danny Glover's 79 years old. Now, running back Chris Johnson's only 40. So it's not an age thing as people kind of think it is. Not an age thing. My uncle wasn't that old when it happened to him. So it's not an age thing. It's a neurological thing that starts to affect your mind and your body, and it makes you weak. And there is really nothing to do about it, as most experts are saying. You get between 3 and 5 years. 1 out of 10 people get 10 years. So it's one of those situations where right now there is no cure. But both men, both Danny Glover and Chris Johnson, are saying, hey, they're not going to feel sorry for themselves. They're going to enjoy their families, and they're going to keep fighting this as well they should. And we should all be involved in it. And right now, you got the other running backs like Edgerrin James and a couple of them that said that they're going to do the ice bucket challenge. I believe, it's one of those situations that we all need to talk about because it's very important. When it happens to a celebrity, it gets magnified to a high level, but there are families right now who are going through these things. But there's so many families going through a lot of things. But when you see, people that you have seen on television, whether it be athletes or it be actors and entertainers, and they go through it, I guess it gives people like more of an insight on it, even though we should be aware of this regardless of who it happens to, because it's an important issue either way. But scientists and medical scientists, they are working on ways to try to counteract some of the ills from this, right? And make people's lives as comfortable as they can as they try to come up with a cure. And I believe it can be cured. I don't think it's one of them situations where, this just naturally has to happen. No, I don't believe that. I believe that it can be worked on. It can be cured. We just need to work harder. Us as Americans, us as people all over the world, work harder on these diseases instead of our separation, meaning the things that separate us. Let's focus on things that can bring us together. No one wants anyone to die from an illness. I don't pray that on my worst enemy. I wouldn't pray it on Felon 47. But, what you see happening right now, people need to stop and think. It can happen to you, me, or anyone else. And this is one of these situations that we have to take serious, and we have to talk about it because it is a situation that affects us all. If we have family members, if we have children and grandchildren and so on, it affects them as well because they hate to see you go through something like this because it's a hard thing on all family members. We should not have to go through this alone. We should have the help and support of our families because in the end, that's all we have. The people we came in the door with are the same people we're going to leave out the door looking at, whether we're lying down or we're the ones looking down at our loved one. Another topic I wanted to talk about that came up, my final topic I want to talk about, and that was rapper Twister pleads guilty to not paying taxes and faces potential prison time. So this is a story that came up last week. I wanted to talk about it here because Twista is from my era. That's where the talent was. That's where a lot of talented guys were, right here in the city of Chicago. We're talking about the Twisters, the Do or Dies, the Crucial Conflicts, COG, all these other artists, man, that were here in this city, and people that I had love for and listened to their music because they understood what it was about to be from Chicago and try to cash in on hip hop. But according to Washington, the Chicago rapper known as, according to the Washington, and this is Washington AP, the Chicago rapper known as Twista has pleaded guilty to 5 counts of willfully failing to pay his income taxes and faces up to 5 years in prison. The IRS Criminal Investigations Division, the crime-fighting arm of the IRS, says Twista, whose legal name is Carl Mitchell, failed to pay income tax from 2019 to 2023 and owes more than $440,000 in back taxes. Last week, Mitchell pleaded guilty to 5 counts of willfully failing to pay income tax. He is scheduled for sentencing on October 22nd. Best known for his 2004 album Kamikaze, which I have in my collection, Mitchell has collaborated with musicians including Kanye West and Jamie Foxx on the song Slow Jams, which we know. He has received 2 Grammy nominations. His income stems from performance, album sales, streaming, and royalty, according to IRS CI, which I know about that because, once again, I dealt with these independent scenes where you got these independent distributors. Trust me, I know exactly how that works. Despite warnings from both IRS and his own accountants of his tax debts, instead, Mitchell entered into agreements with third-party company to pay him advances on future royalties, knowing that the IRS would not be able to levy these funds, the IRS said in a statement. Mitchell also has unpaid tax liabilities dating back to 2011, and the government alleges Mitchell made large purchases to support his lifestyle, including buying at least 4 luxury vehicles. Representatives for Mitchell did not immediately respond to an Associated Press request for comment. IRS criminal investigation doesn't care how famous you are or what you've accomplished, Adam Jobs with the IRS Chicago field office said in a statement. If you willfully refuse to pay your taxes, we'll follow the money and bring you to justice. How ironic for them to say this against a black man, right? When Felon 47 sits in the White House and never has paid any taxes. When does he pay them? Why doesn't he show anyone? But they want to put their foot down on Twista. If Twista did something wrong, okay, he should face the penalty for it, right? He has to pay it back. That's understood. But when you have Felon 47 sitting in the White House, that gets me heated to hear the IRS say anything bad. But once again, they have to put a black man in the mud, or a black woman, or Latino woman, Latino man, or any other person. If Twista did what he did, then he has to pay a price for that. Understood. But at the same time, don't drag him through the mud or his name like he's the worst person that didn't ever pay taxes. When you got Felon 47 who sits in the White House that never pays any taxes, or his cronies who are billionaires who take food out of starving children's mouth that never pay taxes. And yet they want to jump on this man for a measly $440,000 when you got Elon Musk walking around being a trillionaire. It's total bull. It's unfair and it's injustice. That's exactly what it is. And I have to talk about this topic and get heated because everything revolves around Felon 47. And they like to call it Trump derangement. No, I don't think about this idiot 24 hours a day. I think about him when he do dumb, stupid stuff, and then I talk down on him on the Grown Men Podcast because that's what I do. Him and his cronies. We know that Todd Blanche, who runs the Justice Department, is an idiot. He replaced another idiot in Pam Bundy. We know the people around him like J.D. Vance, who wants that job to be president of the United States. That's why he's going on this tour of trying to talk to people on The View and different places to say, oh, I'm not such a bad guy. We know what you are. You have that swarmy look on your face. No one likes you and no one is going to let you be president of the United States. The tech bros are going to spend money out the butt, right? They're going to keep spending money because that's what they do. They like him. Those nerds like him. And see, that's where they checks cash more, right? With these type of people. That's where the buck stops. But people like me say, forget your money. Come to the door with something more than money. That's what we got to get back to. Come back with ideas on how to feed everyone in this world, let alone this country. And yet we want to give our money away in this country to other countries like Saudi Arabia who already have money. And we're going back and forth with them. For what? To what ends? How is that helping the American people? How is trying to lock Twist up helping the American people for a lousy $440,000? When you got trillionaire Elon Musk and you got all these other billionaires out here, Peter Thiels and all these other people that have billions of dollars and they keep accumulating billions more. And they never pay any taxes at any cost. And then they try to say we're job creators. They do this and they do that. And oh, it's against the rich like Jeff Bezos. Oh, people are trying to be critical of the rich. Nobody cares if you're rich. Nobody gives a damn. That's meaningless to people who live in the real world. What we don't like is when people don't pay their fair share in taxes. And then you come after the little man. As if that $440,000 was going to somehow balance the budget. When we know that there's more bigger crisis in the United States of America right now because of Felon 47. But this is what they do, right? They're always going to use a black man as a scapegoat for anything or a black woman. That's why Trump wanted to get rid of all minorities because he feels they're not qualified to be here. That's what the big DEI was about, right? So for me to sit here on the Grown Man Podcast, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell you my opinion. I'm going to tell you the facts of what it really is. Because there is no way they should be going out to Twister for something like this. If he owes some money, fine, make a payment plan. But here you got a felon right here that's president of the United States running roughshod, doing whatever he does, never shows anybody his tax paper. You got a trillionaire idiot that had hair transplants and had his face fixed up and everything else, and Elon Musk, who ran roughshod over this government and starved out children in Africa. This is what we're dealing with in this country. That's why people need to get off their ass and fight back and stand up and use your voice and use your vote and keep talking down on these people every day because this is exactly what they deserve. For them to come out to Twister for this nonsense is garbage. It's pure garbage. And it's one of these situations that's going to continue to happen until we wake up. We have to wake up and get our minds right. Because otherwise, we're going to continue to feel this pain. We're going to continue this cycle. So for Twister, I hope he come up off of this, man, because I know how it is to be pointed the finger at. I know how it is when people trying to take money from you on petty stuff. I understand all that. So I hope you rise up out of it, Twister, man. Do your thing. Hopefully you can get out of that situation. Well, folks, it appears my time is up. I go on long as I always do because I'm very passionate about the things that we talk about here on the Grown Men Podcast. Head on over to We Rise Nation. Hit the links. Check out the new things that we got going over there. The podcast is over there as well. Excerpts from the podcast are there as well. It's always something new and interesting happening over at WeRiseNation.com. Hit the links up also on YouTube. Videos go up there as well as on Instagram under the Grown Men Podcast. Check out all the links. Check out some of the things that we say, some of the things that we give our opinion on. Well, folks, until next time, I am your host, BAN, and I will talk to you soon.
Where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud.